Hi guys, Thogrey here for a new video. This video will be an Enhancement Shaman PvP guide video for patch 9.2.5 of Shadowlands for Season 3 still. And if Season 4 has changes, I will make sure to update the guide, or if there is another build, I will of course make another build video. But this one is the build I'm playing currently, and of course I've started to rank up with my Shaman because I wanted to test a bit of everything before I choose my mains. But this one is a very fun build, and you can have huge success with in twos, in threes. I will discuss about comps, but in the timestamps below you can skip whenever you want. Which chapter you would want to see a second time, for example, or first time, or you want to hop in, hop out, hop in, back again in the video, and you can choose however you like to watch this video. But please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like PvP kind of content. Be sure to like the video if you like the video, and comment below what you think about the guide, the build, and also of course if you have any questions, please ask me. I'm trying to respond as fast as possible, and I'm very happy to bring that build to you guys. I'm sure it is nothing new, but Shamans has a lot of good builds, especially Enhancement and Elemental Shaman has a lot of builds. You can go for full mastery, full haste, even full crit, but this build in particular is very fun. So we will start, of course, with the talents. My shaman, I changed it to alliance because I wanted to play dwarf. I find dwarves super cool, and also they have a poison removal, which is super nice for versus assassination rogues. And in general, yeah, I prefer to play alliance now that we have cross faction. Why not? So let's discuss with the talents first and foremost, and I'm going to explain why I picked those talents. We start with Elemental Blast on the 15 row because this is not a Doom Winds build. Forceful Winds has like not a lot of value, especially since the stacking of Wind Fury is kinda random. It can stack very fast or it cannot stack at all. And yeah, I think it's better to play Elemental Blast, which is an ability that you can hit for 30k. It is like more than a Chain Harvest, is more reliant, also reliable, and also you have a 12-second CD on it. Very fun, very fast. I like to play with Elemental Blast, and I just recommend to play with Elemental Blast. You have Storm Flurry, of course, because I want to have good Storm Strikes, especially since Hot Hand has a 5% chance to reduce the cooldown of Lava Lash. That's very nice, the damage also is very nice, but it's only a 5% chance, and sometimes it can proc multiple times in an arena or in a BG, and sometimes it cannot just proc, like, not even one time, so it's kinda terrible for me to play about RNG. I prefer to play like with consistency. Consistency is always key for me. Ice Strike, I feel like it's not a very good ability. I hope they will change it one time in the future. I play with Earth Shield because I do twos with a hybrid, but if you have a healer with you, you can always go for Spirit Wolf, which is probably the nicest play that you can have, and also the nicest help that you can do for your teammates. They will just need to heal a little bit less whenever they are bursting, and then you can go back to human form and blast some people with Elemental Blast, for example. You can play with Elemental Assault, you can play with Hailstorm, but I prefer to play with Elemental Assault because I like to have chunky Storm Strikes, and also the generation of one stack of Maelstrom weapon is very important for that build because this is a Maelstrom weapon build. You want to have a lot of stacks so you can actually blast your enemies with Elemental Blast, but also with Lightning Bolt, which is I'm going to explain further into the video. I play with Nature's Guardian most of the time, but if I'm playing versus a Holy Priest or a Disc Priest, I just go for Feral Lunge because I don't want to risk that mind games to kill me. Especially in twos, if you are with a hybrid, the chances are you are going to be the target for mind games, and even in twos with a healer, you are the target for mind games because they know you can maybe proc the Nature's Guardian. So please play Feral Lunge versus priests. In trees, I guess it's a bit different, but still there is still a possibility they are Venthyr, and I don't want to risk to die because of a passive that procced. I play with Sundering. I've tested Stormkeeper, but I feel like it's a bit too much. I like the extra CC that Sundering gives, the incap, and often than not, I try to be a hell for casters. Like, casters can do nothing versus me. with Sundering, with Wind Shear, with Capacitator Totem, everything, and also with the Grounding Totem. I'm very much of a hell for them to play versus me, and that's also fun. But now it's a bit of melee land, like Shadowlands. It's melee land at the moment, so you don't really face a lot of casters, especially in twos and also in threes. But if you face versus caster, at least you have the usefulness to be very toxic for those casters. I play with elemental spirits because of our tier set, and also it gives us the oomph that we need for Storm Strike. Storm Strike hits for a lot of damage whenever you get the proc, especially if you get two procs of the Storm, the Lightning. Feral Spirit, which gives you a lot of damage. Even if you have double Frost Feral Spirits, it does a lot of good passive damage with your auto attacks, especially with Wind Fury, it can proc. And fire, I guess that's the worst you can have. It still has good damage. You can do 10k crits with your lava lash, but often than not, I prefer to have lightning or frost. I prefer lightning like by a mile, of course. I've tried earth and spike with that build. I feel like I need to cast a lot of GCDs to make it work. It's a bit more satisfying to do big damage on lightning bolt, but I prefer to have elemental spirits because it is consistent. You will do a lot of damage whenever you get a feral spirit from your tier set or from your feral spirits, like the ability. Especially we are playing with a specific build that reduces the CDs on feral spirits, which I'm going to discuss in the next section. I play also sometimes Ascendants whenever I feel like the game will not last 1 minute to reset the feral spirits, and sometimes the Ascendants damage can do a lot of damage. The range that you get from Storm Strike is also super useful, and also the CDs. But then again, you're not playing Doomwinds, so I would just recommend to go Elemental Spirits and maybe Ascendance whenever you want, but I prefer to go Elemental Spirits. We have, of course, here the PvP talents. We have Swelling Waves, which heals you for a ton in twos. In threes, I could play without it, although it depends versus which comp. If it's a RMP, Swelling Waves is pretty much a must because you want to heal you whenever your healer is CC'd, and yeah, it's good off healing. I play with grounding totem most of the time, but if it's a melee cleave or I feel like there is nothing to ground useful abilities, I would say, I just remove grounding totem and I would play with Ride the Lightning or any other PvP talent that I'm going to explain once I've explained the three main PvP talents I'm using. I use Static Field Totem most of the time too because I like to tether the enemies around the totem. Of course, the totem dies very fast, but it is something that can be off-putting for the enemy team. Whenever a hunter tries to disengage and you do static field totem, they are like screwed if they don't have feign death. So that's a very good ability to press whenever you want like some sustained damage on the enemy team and they are not running away. I feel like if you're playing with a retreat paladin in twos, it can help them also catch the enemy team. Now let's explain which PvP talent is useful and which are not useful for that build. Ride the Lightning, it is a useful ability to have, in PvP talent to have. You can replace Ride the Lightning by Grounding Totem or Static Field Totem whenever you feel playing versus specific comps or specific classes. That's up to debate for you. I cannot say like you need to pick Ride the Lightning every time or you can pick this one for this one. It's very personal. I like the extra damage it provides, but is it better than the utility that you can have? That's the question. I feel like defensives are always welcome to have in this meta, and I feel like Ride the Lightning is a bit too greedy in twos at least. In threes, you can play Ride the Lightning, does a lot of cleave damage, especially if you are playing turbo. It helps your damage to go a bit further, you know. Shamanism, I'm a fan of, but it costs so much mana, and often than not, it is hard to justify the mana that you are going to use because if you have only 10k mana and 10k mana minus 2000 mana, it means that you have only 80% mana left. So it means you have pretty much only 4 healing surges left to use, and even then only 3 because it's a bit more than 2k mana. so it's a bit harder to use. Also, Earth Shield uses mana, your Lightning Bolt uses mana, even though it's little. I feel like it is hard to justify the mana cost behind Shamanism, although I like that spell. It's super good for your Fury Warrior to have. Even your Paladin will just like that buff, but it's hard to justify whenever you can die like in 3 globals without healing, you know? Thunder Charge, I like it, although it doesn't feel that great whenever you see that the games are quite short, and this is a talent that you are using in 5 minutes. You can have your CDs around like 1 minute shaved, I would say, in total. But if you are using only one time or two times in a match, that 30% in 10 seconds is not going to change the match drastically, you know? Ethereal form in twos, if I'm playing versus a Fury MM, for example, or Fury Outlaw, or like even a Fury Warrior with a healer, I like to go for Ethereal form instead of Astral Shift, because if they are going for me, they are wasting a lot of spells. And especially a lot of people don't know about that spell, and they are hitting you not knowing why you are immune. And that 18 seconds can be vital for your healer or your retry paladin to actually heal you correctly. And also you can brain some people. Like sometimes your friends get sapped, you go ethereal form, they just kidney into you, and then their damage is gone, for example. So it's actually very satisfying to play around. It's a high skill PvP talent to use. I don't recommend to go for that PvP talent if you don't know how to pre-shot ethereal form, but whenever you can pre-shot ethereal form, you are going to be godlike in twos. Like in twos, often than not, you can survive a lot of crap just because of pre-ethereal form their burst, and then you have like an easier time to heal yourself, but also bursting the enemy team. Sky Fury Totem, I like it, but I'm not really running a lot of crits to justify it, especially with this build. I'm playing Elemental Blast with Lightning Bolts. If it crits, it does a lot of damage, but you need to play with a caster in trees maybe to justify picking Sky Fury over those 3 talents. Counter-Strike Totem I would not recommend, because how higher you go into the rating, ERCR, how fast they are going to kill the Counter-Strike Totem. It's only a 50 health, so it's just one hit. And the healer can just like Power Word Death or Shadow Word Pain, and the Counter-Strike is gone, you know? Unleash Shield, I like it whenever I feel like I need to root a DH. It is actually a very good counter to DH, but it is very hard to make place for that ability. I hope one day they will put a 4th PvP talent slot, but for now it's not possible. But this one is very underrated. Especially for Restoration Shamans, you can give just a 50% reduced healing and damage while inside with Water Shield, and it can be very match changing, I would say, by using this ability. Spectral Recovery, I don't play it. Maybe I played it one time, but it was just for a test. It didn't feel alright, you know. Seasoned Winds, I play it whenever I'm playing Destruction Warlock or a Balanced Druid or any big caster where I feel like, okay, if I'm going to wind shear him every time he casts, at least he does a lot less damage every 12 seconds. It's basically a damage reduction for 15% all the time, since it is 12 seconds and your CD on wind shear is also 12 seconds. So I like to play with this versus casters. So this is pretty much my build for talents. I'm going to discuss the legendary and also the playstyle around it, and then we are going to discuss about the covenant. But you can already see which covenant I'm running. But we play with Unity, of course, and we are playing Necrolord. So it means that every time you are going to Lightning Bolt and generate an additional Lightning Bolt for your primordial wave, you get 10% haste. So the haste is not a problem on this build, especially since sometimes primordial wave can reset upon itself. So you can play in twos pretty much with 30% haste, and in threes you are with 40% haste, which is enormous while you are bursting, you know. I'm playing with mostly full mastery, a bit of haste, a bit of crit, but mastery is the key to do a lot of lightning bolt damage and elemental blast damage, because this is also elemental blast damage. This is the build that you are going to play if you want to do 32k elemental blast. Sometimes I even did a 35% crit on elemental blast where I had all CDs up, like debuffs up on the enemy team. It was very satisfying, and sometimes people just blow up like super fast. I play with as much as versatility as possible because you are also healing yourself, but also increased damage. It's always nice to have. And I'm playing with Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones Legendary, so it gives you an extra chance to have a stack of master weapon. And since this build is revolving around stacks and expending those stacks for lightning bolts, elemental blast, and healing, this is a high value legendary. Also, the cooldown of feral spirits are reduced by 2 seconds whenever you gain a stack, and if you're gaining a lot of stacks, your feral spirits are pretty much going to be up around every 45 seconds, 1 minute, depends on how lucky you are and the uptime you have. I play with normal trinket, of course. I play with the haste trinket because I prefer haste over crit. Although the value of haste is a bit less than crit points wise. And of course, we are going to discuss the tier set for a bit. So, spending Maelstrom Weapon has a 3% chance per stack to summon a Feral Spirit. So, you have a 15% chance for a Feral Spirit. And since you have the talent that can give you a Lightning Feral Spirit or a Frost or a Fire one, it gives you a huge value on the talent. The talent by itself is the reason for existing because of the tier set. If you didn't have the tier sets around Feral Spirits, I guess you would still go for Ascendance for the burst damage. But since Feral Spirits are high value on this build, I feel like it's a very, very good reasoning to get the Feral Spirits talent. And the fourth set is your Feral Spirits attacks have a 20% chance to trigger Stormbringer, which will reset your CD on Stormstrike. So sometimes you can have multiple resets on Stormstrike and you are going to blow up the enemy. It's a bit RNG. Unfortunately, Enhancement Shaman was always around RNG, if you like it or not. And I guess it's fun to have it, and sometimes whenever it doesn't proc, it feels a bit bad, but it is what it is. So let's not talk why I'm going Necrolord. Necrolord, let's discuss first and foremost the ability of Necrolord. You have Primordial Wave, which gives you the next lightning bolt will also hit all targets affected by your flame shock for 150% of normal damage. So your second lightning bolt that is going to come out will do more damage than your normal lightning bolt. And then when you're critting, for example, 10k with a normal lightning bolt, this lightning bolt will do 20k. So it will do more damage than a chain harvest in total. Even a non-crit will do more damage, and you will need to understand that Primordial Wave can reset upon itself. So if you are doing Primordial Wave and you have Primordial Wave backup, you can do Lightning Bolt. It does 30k if it crits. If it doesn't crit, it's around 20k, around 70k, I would say. And you can reapply Primordial Wave and go again with a Lightning Bolt. And if that crits, it's a lottery, of course, because it's RNG. But if it crits, you are going to one-shot people. And people will not expect that. People will expect Chain Harvest. People will expect whenever you are going to burst, whenever you are going Ascendance Doomwinds. But this one, you can burst whenever, even outside of CDs. And if you have CDs, it will do even more damage. Especially if you are doing Elemental Blast, you get like a 6% mastery buff because of the Elemental Blast, or you get the crit, or you get the haste. It does a lot of value. So mainly what I'm doing, I'm going to do the rotation a bit further in the video, but it's very interesting, very satisfying to play in 3s and in 2s. Of course, Chain Harvest can heal you and save you from bad situations, but I feel like since the nerf, it is a bit less worth to play it, although Chain Harvest is probably the easiest covenant to play for normal Enhancement Shamans. But don't forget, Necrolord also has Fleshcraft, which gives you extra tankiness. Like, in general, I would say in PvP it is around 28k shield, maybe 25k shield for Fleshcraft. It is very good and very noticeable. It helps you to survive things that you should not survive in the opener. So instead of trinketing the first opener, you can maybe sit into the opener and then fight on, you know? So I'm going to explain which Covenant and which Soulbind I'm playing. As I'm playing 2s, I'm playing with Plague Device of Marileth, still also in 3s, but in 2s you can play with Swirling Currents. I don't have high conduits, unfortunate. It gives you 31% extra healing on healing surge. So it means that you can do your healing streak totem, you will get 31% more healing, and then you can cast healing surge. It will heal you for a lot more than your normal healing surge. Like 14k without maelstrom weapons. If you have times 5, because it's 100%, it will do around like 25k non-crit. In PvP, in 2s you have dampening, but in 3s that healing can overheal you whenever it crits, but it's very satisfying to play around it. I play with Vital Accretion because I like the extra healing that you get, health that you get from Earth Elemental, and the matches are quite short in 2s. You can play with Focus Lightning because you want that extra damage for Elemental Blast, you want that extra damage for Lightning Bolt, and it is actually also very good for your healing, so always play Focus Lightning. I also play with Refreshing Waters because I want to heal more on myself, because often than not you will be the target. Of course, Ultimate Form, and the best conduit that you can have for that build, the RNG God will give you more burst, more things to play around instead of Venthyr. So you can have a chance on a proc that will not incur the cooldown of Primordial Wave. So 29% for a level 200 conduit. And I play with Totemic Surge because I like to have my totems faster. Of course, Kevin Oozling gives you the extra damage that you can provide with Lightning Bolt, which can do the damage that I said, like 30k with whenever it crits both, and around 70k, 18k whenever it doesn't crit. But Chain Harvest does a bit the same damage, but you will do it a lot more often. So let's discuss about comps first, and now I'm going to discuss about the rotation. So in 2s, you want to play with a hybrid if you want to be a fast-paced 2s comp. You will have huge success if you know how to play your shaman like a healer, but also like a DPS. So you need to off-heal often, but you also need to heal yourself more often than not. And your teammate, like a Retribution Paladin, a Feral Druid, they will also need to heal you whenever you are in a pinch. And the same, they will need to CC whenever you are in pinch. So they will need to play a healer and a DPS, and you need to play a healer and a DPS as an Enhancement Shaman. So it's also very satisfying to play, win versus people that should not be winnable, for example. And in 3s, you can play with Turbo. Of course, there's not many comps for Enhancement Shaman, but you can play Beast Cleave, which is with a BM Hunter, and then you have like huge sustained damage all through the match. It is a bit worse than Fury Warrior, but you can make it work. You can also play with a DK. It's quite squishy though, but you will have huge sustained damage. You have also huge CC possibilities with a Frost DK or with an Unholy DK. It is not the best comp. Still, the best comp is with a Turbo, and I even prefer with an Arms Warrior instead of a Fury Warrior because they have a lot more utility. But if you have no choice, just go for Fury Warrior. It's also very nice, and the damage is very appreciative. You can also play with a Sub-Ability Rogue because of their CC possibility. You can just one-tap some people because of their CC. So you can also play with a Rogue. And that's a bit the comps that you can play. You can play with whatever comp actually, because you have huge possibilities to support your teammates. But if you want to have success in 3s, you need to play the comps that are possibly the best comps in the game, like Turbo, Beast Cleave. You can also play with a Sub Rogue. You can play with a DK. Those 4 are your best friends as an Enhancement Shaman. In 2s, of course, you can play with a Holy Priest. That's pretty much a good way to play the game, I guess, since it's a bit busted, but it is what it is. Alright, so we are going to play now the rotation. It is very important. The rotation is quite nervous. I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and then I'm going to explain, since I have a bit of difficulties to talk while I'm playing, or at least I cannot name the spells whenever I'm trying to do a rotation. So I'm going to first and foremost show you what I'm doing, and then of course I'm going to explain it. I prefer to play with Lightning Shield because I like to have the extra Maelstrom whenever you take melee damage, and I put the Earth Shield on my friends, for example, so that whenever they are going for him, they have like extra healing from me, and also extra healing for whenever they are going to get damage, for example. So you will need to flame shock your targets every time. So you want to have dots on all targets. You want to apply frost shock to be able to uh, to catch your enemies, and of course use your spirit walk whenever you feel like you're getting kited, and not before, because then you lose a lot of all of the utility from spirit walk. Also, don't forget to fleshcraft, because it gives you mastery buff, and then that mastery buff is insane. 65% mastery for damage element, like nature damage and also elemental damage. It is very, very good. So I'm gonna start to do a bit of damage. Alright, I get my 5 stacks soon. Okay, Feral Spirits, I do Sundering, and then a Primordial Wave, and then I'm doing the damage. Elemental Blast. I have a stack. Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt again. You see my damage already, huh? I'm at 9k DPS without critting. Imagine if I crit. People just fall over. And it's also a very good sustain build, because you always have damage. Always. Since your lightning bolts are hitting 9k, it can crit for a lot of damage and people will not notice about it. Elemental Blast, 15k non-crit. And I can go back with Feral Spirits. Again, a lot of Feral Spirits in your build. Then you Lightning Bolt again. Here you have a Primordial Wave soon. Elemental Blast, Primordial Wave again. And Lightning Bolt. Bam. Lightning Bolt again. Elemental Blast. Alright. So this is the damage I did in a short span of time. You see my Elemental Blast. I have thrown 5, I have 86k damage. I didn't crit, unfortunately, but it does 19k damage. Hit, so it's very nice, very noticeable. Lightning Bolt hit 15k. Imagine if it crits. Imagine if your second Lightning Bolt crit. That guy is just going to die. I did not have a lot of huge RNG, but my Icy Edge did 6% of the damage. My Icy Edge is the Feral Spirit Frost, the Frost attuned Feral Spirit that is also a chance on proc, which is very nice. Lava Lash did a bit of damage, did 8k because of the buff that I get from the Flame one. My Storm Strike is also the best damaging ability, did 8.5k on my main hand. So it's very, very strong and very, very noticeable. So I'm going to explain a bit how you do maximum damage without playing, because it's a bit difficult to explain while I'm playing. So you always have to have Flame Shock and try to fish around 5 stacks. Then you can go for Feral Spirits, Primordial Wave, you can Elemental Blast to get the buff, and then you Storm Strike again, you will have around 5 stacks again. You can Lightning Bolt, and at that moment, if you critted your Elemental Blast and your Lightning Bolt, that guy will use 100% their defensives or get one-shotted. Of course, it is a crit reliant build, although you're not playing around crit. If you're critting your abilities, you're going to one-shot people. If you're not critting abilities, you're going to actually be a poison for the enemy team. Your sustained damage will be impressive. Like, people will not notice that you have huge sustained damage outside of Chain Harvest, because they don't know that you're playing an elemental build. This is actually the elemental shaman if it was a melee form elemental shaman. So that's why I like this build. I've explained a bit of everything. I will make a lot more testing about different legendaries, but frankly, this one is probably the most fun I had on my Enhancement Shaman. I always felt like builds that played around Chain Harvest with the Elemental Shaman, Skybreaker's Fiery Demise, and trying to fish Chain Harvest every minute. I feel like it's a very boring way to play Enhancement Shaman, especially the damage outside of that is quite meh. Your sustained damage is quite bad. You try to survive until you have Chain Harvest, and then you do a Chain Harvest, you get a crit, and everyone is happy. But I don't like that gameplay. That gameplay is quite boring, and that's why I've tried to find the best way to play Enhancement Shaman and be active all the time, to be a poison all the time. And I feel like the Feral Spirits, the Elemental Blast, and the Primordial Wave with Lightning Bolt build is very good for people like you, me, and maybe like you, that you like maybe to play more sustained, more bursty, and more unpredictable. While Chain Harvest is quite predictable, and whenever Chain Harvest is up, you're going to Chain Harvest directly most of the time. Or you are finding a way to one-shot the target, or you're finding a way to survive the enemy team by Chain Harvesting yourself, for example. But if you want to do main huge damage, you want to carry games in twos with a DPS, with a healer, you can play this build. It is huge fun. You are actually a ranged DPS when you're playing this build. Whenever you get Storm Strikes and you have the Maelstrom weapon stacks and you can Lightning Bolt, people, they are from 30 yards, they think they are safe, but they are not. They're getting crits for 30k in total and they just fall over. While with Chain Harvest it's a bit the same, but it's less frequent. You need to be on top of the enemy, try to get the Flame Shock crits and get the Chain Harvest as fast as possible back. But now with this build you can actually enjoy your Shaman how it should be played, in my opinion. And yeah, it's huge. It's very fun gameplay. So this marks the end of the video. I appreciate you guys to watch the video like in its entirety. The comments, the love that I get for every video, it is actually amazing. Like I'm getting emotional by playing my favorite game, making videos, and have so much support from the people around me. So I appreciate you guys on Reddit. I appreciate you guys on YouTube. I appreciate you guys on WoW forums. And I hope that this video will give you a big smile, a big idea to maybe switch your manner of playing Enhancement Shaman. This build gives you sustained damage, gives you burst damage, gives you sustained defensives like Fleshcraft. Because if they are kicking in your Fleshcraft, yeah, they don't have a kick, and you can heal yourself. So it's very awesome. You can Fleshcraft and then Hex, and that Hex is like unkickable. It's very, very strong. So I like that build. I like the way I play with that build. If you have difficulties finding people on LFG, you can play Enhancement Shaman with that build and play with a double DPS. You don't really need to hybrid DPS. You can also play with a rogue. You can play with a mage. Although I recommend a hybrid to have more success versus more comps. But if you want to have fun with your friends, you can play Enhancement Shaman with this build and have huge success sustain-wise, burst-wise, healing-wise, defensive-wise, everything. So thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you guys. Like this video if you like this video. Comment below what you think about this build. Did you try it? Did you not try it? What build are you playing at this very moment? And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like those kinds of content. Helps me a ton. And I will see you very soon. Bye.